If you've been cheated on and you can't stop thinking about the affair partner, what they look like, who they are, what they have that you don't, you're not alone. This is one of the most painful parts about infidelity because what you're doing feels like comparison, but there's actually a lot going on as well. So we're going to break this down from both sides. From the unfaithful spouse's perspective, what they're doing, it can seem pretty simple. People often assume they just found someone that they feel is better, but that's almost never what's going on. So there's multiple layers to this. Layer one is the surface comparison. And there can be surface level attraction. The physical side, their personality, just the novelty of it, sexual energy. But that's honestly the least interesting layer. Because if it was just about better, people would leave relationships cleanly. But they don't. So what's going on? Layer two, from the unfaithful spouse's perspective, is what the affair partner represents. The affair partner often represents something specific to the unfaithful spouse, a version of themselves that they've lost, a feeling they haven't had in years, a part of life that feels like it's missing. For example, the feeling of freedom instead of responsibility, excitement instead of routine, validation instead of feeling unseen. So it's not just I want them, it's I want how I feel when I'm with them. To be clear, this isn't justifying it, it's explaining it. The third layer, though, is often dissatisfaction. Sometimes the dissatisfaction is with the relationship, with their partner, with themselves, with life as a whole. And that makes sense, right? If you're looking for this feeling in another person that you're not finding already, it's because there's something you're dissatisfied with. And a lot of people assume that that must mean it's dissatisfaction with the relationship or with their partner. And there often is some of that, but to act like that's the only thing that they could be dissatisfied with is false. Sometimes it really is themselves. Sometimes it really is their work. Sometimes it really is life as a whole. But sometimes they're not fully aware of what that is. And consciously or unconsciously, they think having a new partner or a different partner or having something in addition on the side is what's going to fix it. And then the fourth layer, the final layer, is really the fantasy layer. They are convincing themselves that they're able to live in this alternate reality where there's no real consequences, no shared responsibilities, no long-term friction. The connection feels easier, lighter, more intense with the affair partner. They know that it's a distorted reality at some point. At some level, they understand that. But they are living in such fantasy and delusion that none of that matters to them. And you can see how these all start to piece together, right? If you're really dissatisfied, you start to see things in this fantasy world where you can just try different things and experiment and go after feelings that you have been missing, all at the expense of the real people in your life. Again, it's not justified in the slightest, but that is some of the common reasons why people can end up choosing the affair partner that they did. But what about the betrayed spouse? What does the affair partner represent to the betrayed spouse? And again, let's think of it in terms of layers. Layer number one, you're just trying to answer the question, why? Why them is the main question that you're asking. And oftentimes the reason why you're doing that is because they represent this new dynamic. You know, you and your spouse, family, kids, work, these are all kind of steady variables. And now it's this additional variable. And your life is wrecked, your life is in shambles. So this seems like this is the new element that was introduced. So if you can understand the affair partner, maybe you can understand why your life got to this point. So you start analyzing, starting at the surface layer usually, their looks, their personality, their lifestyle, their career. And sometimes there is good wisdom to be gleaned from this, but oftentimes the obsession doesn't stop there, even when you learn this information. So what's really going on? Layer two, what the affair partner represents to you. Just like they represent something to your partner, the affair partner also often represents something to you. A version of you that you're not, a life path that you didn't take, a fear of being replaced, a standard you feel you didn't meet. And sometimes the thoughts secretly start sounding like, is that who I should have been? Is that what they actually have wanted this whole time? Am I lacking something? So you're not just comparing the surface level traits, but you're comparing identities and different versions of yourself that you could have been. The third layer that's going on here is it starts to uncover emotions about how you feel about yourself. And this is the part that can hurt the most. because we all carry, to one degree or another, different insecurities, lack of self-esteem. Things like, I wasn't enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not good enough, I'm just not enough, existentially. And then the affair partner becomes evidence of that. It's proof in the court of public opinion that this person is better than me. There was one person who had every reason to choose me, and one person they had every reason not to choose, and they still chose them. That must mean that that person is so much more fundamentally valuable than I am. When you're spiraling, that logic feels airtight. But based on what I just said about all the different layers going into why the unfaithful spouse made their decision, you can understand how illogical they were acting. So why would their illogical actions have any type of logical determination on your value? The fourth layer is what it feels like it says about the relationship. So it's not just rewriting how you feel about yourself, but it's rewriting your relationship as well. You're questioning, was I ever really chosen? Was this always there? Even if it's not the affair partner, was all this stuff that the affair partner represents, was that looming over us the entire time? Was I just the safe option? Was I the person that they knew would say yes? So the comparison isn't just them versus you, it's about you and your partner. Like, what was real? What is real now? And the reason you often get stuck in comparison is that it feels useful. Your brain is thinking, if I can figure this all out, I can make sure this never happens again. But if they seem like, just think of the different options. If you make that comparison and they seem better, you just feel worse. If you make the comparison and they seem worse than you don't feel better, then it just makes no sense, because now it seems like they could go out and do this with anybody. And if they're just different, if you feel like you're kind of similar value, but just different types of people, then your brain just keeps on scanning and trying to figure out, what does that mean? There's no possible outcome to the comparison game that actually is useful after a certain point. So how do you make it stop? How do you make the comparisons stop? Number one, stop treating the affair partner like the answer. They feel like the explanation. They're not. Even if you knew everything about them, that would not really fully explain why your partner did it. They're not the source of the meaning. You and your partner are. Number two, separate their choice from your worth. Your partner's behavior is their decision making, their state of mind that they were in, their patterns that they inherited or chose. It does not equal your value as a person. Like I said, there's so much illogical elements that go into choosing to cheat. So don't reflect their choice as some type of logical evaluation of your character. And three, if you are going to compare, be honest with yourself. What are you actually comparing? If you say, I keep comparing, is it appearance? Is it lifestyle? Is it freedom? Is it personality? And you might say, yeah, it's all of them. But which one is bugging you the most? Which one do you always loop back to? And that's the one that really gets you going. Because usually you're not just comparing facts, you're comparing what those things mean. And that is the area to work on, not in terms of continuing to compare yourself to them, but in understanding what type of feelings that you actually have about that. Whether it's shame about your own body in relation to feeling like they have a better body than yours, whatever it might be. Figure out what shame or frustration or anger is actually underneath the comparison. Number four, call out the distortion that's going on here, because you're doing something very unfair to yourself. You are comparing your full, real, authentic, good and bad mixed together, full self to a partial, curated, situational, tastical, like fantasy-esque version of somebody else. That is not a fair equation. And reminding yourself of that, I think, is important. And then shift the focus back, lastly, to the things that matter. The real damage isn't just the betrayal. It's not even just that they chose this other person. It's the way that this is affecting you. So it's affecting you in terms of things like self-trust, your ability to trust your own perception, your own judgment, your own sense of reality. Until that gets rebuilt, until you get out of this nervous system on fire, constantly activated, looping, understanding everything is the most important thing in the world loop, then none of the rest of it matters. Your healing is the priority.